Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues from the Commonwealth, where the sun never sets. My time is 7 p.m. That of the chair is 6 p.m. And we have a broad range of times here. Jaya is 10 o'clock, and Doris is 7 o'clock, like mine. So we will begin this event by inviting the chair of the session, Dr. Cyril Tunnicliffe, to welcome us. Sue, your welcome remarks.
Good evening, everybody. Yes, I'm the chair of the Commonwealth Association of Science, Technology and Maths Educators. I'm actually a science educator rather part-time these days at University College Institute of Education in London. And it is my very, very great pleasure to introduce our eminent speaker, long-time friend and associate of mine. We've been in NAS, the National Association of Research Science Teaching, which is based in the USA, but is the premier science teaching research organization. And it's very hard to know where to begin introducing Peter, or should I say Professor Okebukola. And I would really recommend you to go to the websites and just look him up. There's far too much for me to say tonight, but suffice to say that he is one of the world's eminent science educators, and he shares with us in CASTME, of which he is an advisor, and very often does attend our informal meetings on Zoom, a lasting interest and almost passion in the learning of science, maths, engineering and technology at all ages. But very importantly, he is almost a leader in the acknowledging the relevance of the culture in which the learners of whatever age are learning. And at the moment, he, with me and a host of African educators, we are looking at the importance of play, STEM, the very early years before formal school, and the cultural aspects that you see in play. So, as I've said, he's a CASTME advisor. He's very well known, but very importantly and relevant to this biennial memorial lecture for Dennis Chisman, who was the founder of CASTME in 1974. He and Peter knew each other well and worked together, so it's absolutely appropriate that Peter agreed to give this lecture, which is held in memory of a dear friend and colleague, Dennis Chisman. So thank you very much, Peter.
Our children are future. STEAM from the lens of babies. 2 days ago was Commonwealth Day, and the theme, our unity is our strength. It's a delight that we all from the Commonwealth are here to unite to celebrate a friend, a colleague, Dennis Chisman. The last Dennis Chisman Memorial Lecture was delivered by Professor Robin Clark about 2 years ago. The title of which is The Engineering Education Conundrum, Defining a Path for the Future. 12 years ago, I gave the inaugural Dennis Chisman lecture, which I entitled His Dreams Are Dreams, Science Education Research and Significant Innovations. I gave this lecture in Tartu in Estonia. But who was Dennis Chisman? Dennis Chisman was one of the founders of ICASE. ICASE is International Council of Associations for Science Education. He was the first treasurer. I was a founding member of CASTME that is honoring him today. You see the picture on the left, that's the first ICASE meeting conference, and there's Chisman second on the right. I met Dennis shortly after this, when I became the general secretary of the Science Teachers Association of Nigeria. We had an ICASE conference in Sierra Leone, and Dennis and I were lodged in the Furabe College, and it was my next door person, a room next door. And we had very wonderful time since then. Now let's listen to a former ICASE president, Jack Holbrook, tell us a little bit about Dennis.
For Dennis is Mr. ICASE. He was the ambassador that started ICASE and traveled around the world, introducing it with his typical smile, his common expressions, and introductions to it in a very friendly, amiable, likable way. And he started ICASE, developed it there, got it organized, visited the countries, talked to people, and really, yes, set it up as something that was well liked around the world. And his biggest success, without a doubt, is selling his ICASE t-shirts. He really got into that. I got him into selling ICASE pens as well, but they didn't go down so well as the t-shirts.
That's some reflections. I apologize for the low, if you like, poor audio quality of that video. Jack Holbrook, former ICASE president. A little bit more about Dennis, who forged very strong links with UNESCO, and the rest that you can see on the screen. He was very active in all the activities relating to science and technology within UNESCO. This is Dennis. Was Dennis in 2003, and we have a short tribute from Sue, the chair of this event. As I said, the audio quality is not so good, but I'll summarize what she's saying here. 2010, that, okay, let's hear where again.
Dennis was quite encouraging because I kept complaining that ICASE had absolutely nothing to do with the real teaching world because they did nothing for elementary children.
That was Sue 12 years ago, who informed us that she met Dennis the Canberra conference with Santuji Baja and the rest. So Dennis was also the secretary of ICSU CTS, and that CTS bit was disbanded in 1994, and he developed a series of ICASE yearbooks. So we'll move on to the lecture. Our children are future, STEAM from the lens of babies. In about 35 minutes, I will walk with you through these items. We'll look at the growth of STEAM over the last 2 decades and describe the underrepresentation or discuss the underrepresentation of children's science in research literature. We'll take a look at the theoretical framework, positioning children to reshape our outlook in the 21st century. And we're going to narrate a project from Africa, which will be an exemplar as to how children's science can be promoted. And there will be a few concluding messages. So STEM, we know it. STEAM, we know it. But STEAM is the arts tucked into STEM. And there's some collaboration here, which underlines interdisciplinarity. Humanities, the sciences, the technology, all of these they come together because knowledge is whole, and breaking them down, partitioning them into small discrete elements may not be the way to go in the future. Future occupations will depend on STEAM, crossing disciplinary boundaries between science and the humanities. So STEAM gives us some sense of holistic education rather than education that is in small packets. We're talking about early science. There are some aliases: early science, children's science, toddler science, preschool science, kindergarten science. The project that I'll be describing towards the end of this session will cover children ages between 0 to 9 years. is visibility given to children's science? We try to probe the visibility given to children's science articles and chapters in some science education materials. We looked at Journal of Research in Science Teaching, 59 issues, and we try to look for children's science by way of articles and chapters, and we got a number that is sub 2000, 1863, out of several thousands of articles and chapters. We took a dive at International Journal of Science Education, and we found also sub 2000, 1957. We're thinking that Journal of Biological Education will give more visibility because biology, science of life, of action, of animals and plants that children can easily relate with and the researchers can easily conduct studies on, but we found 1027. So in total, from our studies, we found that children's science just got a meager 2%. And school science defined as high school, secondary school, and the like, you can say 85%, and about 12% for college science, that's university level science. So we are seeing from the data before us that children's science is a blind spot. And but should children's science or STEAM be a footnote in the Commonwealth? We think not. But let us take a tour of the Commonwealth and let's look at children's science in Africa. Surveys show that in Ghana and Nigeria, where we picked our samples from, children's science is weak in the preschool years. It's promoted in the curriculum, but it's not well delivered because of delivery handicaps, especially in nursery and primary schools, chiefly because of capacity deficit of caregivers. The bulk of the citizenry is scientifically illiterate, science and technology illiterate. You can ask me a definition of that. And teachers, caregivers and teachers are not too scientifically literate. And so they cannot, delivery of the curriculum that is slanted towards science is compromised. And there's poor resourcing of the schools. The picture is better in private schools, and STEM rather than STEAM is given prominence, although no specialization occurs at that level. During COVID-19, post-COVID-19, technology is now giving this a boost. Let's go to Asia and pick India. This 2019 book, Science Education in India, and several other sources that we probe showed that in India, the same as we have in the countries that we sample in Africa, it's weak in preschool years. That's children's science. Children's science is promoted in the curriculum. There's delivery handicap for the same reasons that we found for Africa. The picture is better in private schools. The same for STEM and STEAM conclusion. Technology is boosting delivery. But we found that in India, there's a National Children's Science Congress. It's a program which gives visibility to children's activities, their creativity, innovativeness, and this is, in the coming years, going to be a turbo boost for children's science in India. Let's go to Caribbean and the Americas. We'll pick Canada. Canada has very strong preschool years. I took personal interest in studying this, and you'll know in a minute. Strong preschool years. They have toys in their schools, at home, children's books, science programs for TV, for kids on TV, and the curriculum delivery is largely well delivered. STEAM giving some prominence. Let's go to Europe. Children's science in Europe. The same story is what we found in Canada. Strong in preschool years, toys, children's books, and the rest. STEAM is giving some prominence, not the great kind of prominence that we would have loved to see. Children's science in the Pacific. You can see the countries. We'll take Australia, where I was in the early 90s. I was a visiting professor at Cotton University of Technology in Perth, Western Australia. But beyond my early Australian contacts, I've been following activities in Australia, and a literature search showed that, like we have in Canada, strong in preschool years with toys and all that promoted in the curriculum, that science, children's science promoted in the curriculum, and largely well delivered, and STEAM is given some prominence. But how do children learn science? We know that children, we all have, or rather, whether it's direct by birth or by direct children or adopted, we will have children, grandchildren, and we know they like to observe, they like to listen, they like to explore, they like to experiment, they like to ask questions. Now, these are science processes, and these are the ways in which children learn science, among others. They also learn to play and then to read. And talking about reading, we have this, we took some inspiration from this paper written by Sue Tunnicliffe and Catherine Bruguiere, Emerging Biological Literacy Through Reading Pictorial Fiction Books in the Early Years. I'm also talking about reading. We got this from Sue, Institute of Education, 8 categories from simplest to complex. That's what you have in there. Now, what's a theoretical framework? There are two strands of theories of how children learn. And, well, if they learn generically, also learning of science. You have the continuous development theories, and you have the discontinuous development theories. The continuous development theories take the learning of science, children learning of science in this case, as measurable and quantitative. The discontinuous one as qualitative. Let's look at the continuous development set of theories. That it involves gradual and ongoing changes throughout the lifespan of the child. And some prominent psychologists that have proposed these theories are as listed here. We have one from Africa, Michako Buniyi. Continuous development theory, discontinuous. Now, this set of theories see distinct and separate stages with different kinds of behavior occurring in each. So we have, I need to mute somebody now. Please give me a minute. So these are some of the theories. Familiar with Jean Piaget and the rest of them. We have 2 from Africa, Shola Indero and Gilbert Ohm. There are several stage theories of how children learn science. A number of them you can see on the screen, and I'm going to show another army of them on the right. So there are several of these theories. Now, these children that we are talking about, they have a future. We have a future. They have more. They have to go far into the future than we are record. So let's take a peep into the future that we're anticipating that these children that we're discussing today will inherit. This is a future that's either going to be really, really amazing or really, really awful. In Africa, we have an envisioning of the future for our children, the Africa we want. 2063, the heads of state and government of all African countries came together about 10 years ago and said, okay, fine, let's define what we want for the African children. In Nigeria, just this month, this is going to be launched later this month. We have a blueprint 2050, which is preparing our children for the future in different areas. This is about food security. So the Nigeria's blueprint 2050 is saying, how do we feed these young children by 2050? How do we provide health security for them? How do we educate them? How do we provide housing for them? How do we transport them, employ them? What kind of governance is best? How do we secure the country, internal and external? How do we provide electricity, power? How do we maintain our mega cities? Infrastructure. So we are going to share with you a project Africa Children's Science Project, which is meant to prepare our children for the future. The authors of the project, or the implementers of the project, are shown at the bottom of this screen from different African countries. 19 African countries making up the Commonwealth. We decided to take a consultant, Sir Dale Tunnicliffe, who came into one of our meetings, and we were busy looking at how we could improve high school science, university science. I said, oh, people, you have missed the boat. You have to go back to the children. If you're able to get them right, if you're able to win them for science, then the half of the battle at the high school level, at the college level, would have been won. So Cyril had done quite a lot of work on children's science. I just highlighted two of them: Disgusting Animals, Primary School Children's Attitudes and Myths of Bats and Spiders, Effects of Having Pets at Home on Children's Attitudes Towards Popular and Unpopular Animals, and a host of several others. So the problem that we sort of solve, as we presented at a webinar not too long ago, is that in 2063, as I remarked, the African governments will want to aspire, will aspire towards 7 goals. One of them, for instance, is a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. But the same Agenda 2063 underscores that low enrollment in STEM courses persists across the continent, and it will inhibit the attainment of that agenda. And so efforts must be made to improve STEM education. But you see, the efforts that are being made are targeted at the basic education level. Basic education defined as the 6-year primary, 3-year junior secondary. But we found that if we paid attention to the early years, as I said, half of the battle will be won. And that is what Sue came to warn us about. I use the word won, and it's actually won, because we have to catch them young for science. We have to shift focus to the early years. And we find that the home and the playground are zones where our children in Africa can learn science in the early years. And also, folklore is an important cultural activity for children. Now, these provide the context for the study. We had 2 research questions. The first is what home and playground activities, playground-based activities of African children and folklores are predisposing to the learning of science concepts and early acquisition of scientific attitudes. Our second question relates to how we can enhance the possibility of their future interest in science. About folklores, we have a number of books. Several others are coming out which document African folklores. And the folklores, in the moonlight stories, our children gather around and we tell them about the parents or the significant adults tell them about these folklores. And there's a lot of science in the folklores that we are hoping to give visibility to in the coming weeks and months. Our research proceeded in 2 phases. We had the survey phase and we had a case study. The survey was, Africa-wide, was sampled of 2 to 7-year-old children. And we had a survey instrument, interview guide. We trained our data collectors for 4 weeks. We had recorded videos of children in the playground, in the home, and enjoy themselves, more or less, but with a lot of science in there. So in analyzing the data, our first research question, as you can see, is what home and playground activities. We have what you see in table 1 is just a section of a page out of about 100 pages, over 100 pages of the playground activities of our children that we documented, and also extracted the related scientific knowledge or attitude, what making paper boats and placing on water. If you look at the bottom of this slide, you find these children rolling tires In many of our streets, in urban and rural areas, you find that our children, they roll tires. A lot of science going on there. But they're just enjoying themselves. They don't care about the science, but we need to let them care and know about the science, because they are going to be asking questions. Why is my tire rolling faster than the other? Why is it that if I roll the tire uphill, is slowed down? Why is it that when the tire has some corrugation along this, it wobbles? Look at the left, who is in the circle? So these are some of the things that we studied and we've documented. Now, we took two examples, Ghana and Nigeria, because they are the Commonwealth countries. And as the chair, Sue, indicated, we're focusing on the cultural aspects of this. Because if you immerse your teaching and learning of science with the cultural context, chances are very high that interest will be bolstered and achievement will also take a hike. You can see these Ghanaian children, several activities. Let's look at this. I'm going to play a short clip of this video. Yeah, so you see the two Ghanaian children, one coming out from that small hut, joining this, and there's a canoe. And I'm going to fast track this a little bit to another part of the video here. All right, we're going on. What we have done is for every activity that we watch in the home, on the playground, and folklore related, we had the activity, we had the cultural, just a minute now, we had the cultural perspectives, the scientific perspectives, and 21st century skills. You know, we're talking about children of the future. Here you find the narratives of the cultural, the scientific perspectives. The other video is about the boy throwing rings on the trunk of an elephant. I didn't show that, but it's part of the video that I stopped sharing on account of time. The cultural perspectives are there, the scientific perspectives and 21st century skills we have there. The girl is seen riding a kid-sized motorbike. That's another of the videos that were captured of the children in the playground. Now let's come to Nigeria, where I am. The sub-statistics we find interesting. Adult literacy is 62%. Scientific literacy is very low. So we're not saying, let the parents who are scientifically illiterate explain science phenomena to the children. Answer the questions, they address the inquisitiveness of their children, of the observations they are making. How do you get that done? You will see in a moment how we plan to navigate around that challenge. Rich socio-cultural context from Nigeria. You can see our children, Tinko Tinko, Suwe game, 10-10 game. There are hundreds of these games, hundreds of these activities that our children carry out. So let's look at a short clip from these urban children. Yeah, what we've done here, like we did for Ghana, is to give you a narration, the related STEM activities and STEM experience, the cultural things that you can pick up from them, and then the 21st century skills. Let's take this urban child.
Please carry me.
All right, so we narrated the video on the first column here, the STEM experience, 21st century skills, and the cultural perspectives to what we are saying there. Let's take on the rural children from Nigeria. So, as we did in the other case, we have the video narration, the cultural elements, the STEM, the 21st century skills. So what do all of these things mean? They mean nothing if we're only going to just document this. When we presented this at the NASC at the NAST webinar, we were giving some tips about what to do. But before that, we already made some moves to ensure that these the reports of our activities, the videos, all the narration, all these tables do not just end up in a journal or in a book, but we want to improve the science and technology literacy of the parents. So what we're doing is to finalize a series of materials for parents, for caregivers, and teachers on science literacy so that they can explain the science concepts to the children. Our logic is if the children can see science in what they do, in the tires that they are rolling, in the seesaw, in the kite that they are flying, or in the paper boat that they are making, their acquisitive and impressionable minds will be sold for science, early for science. What are we doing now? We are developing the materials in English and major local languages. The English version of the first two materials are ready. They have been translated as I speak. And we are hoping to broadcast this on TV and radio all over the countries that we're covering in the local languages. This is an example of one of the books, Children and Science in the Home, around Juwa in Elegbada village. Let me give you a sense of this. Now you have two children, a boy and a girl, and you have some African scientists. So it's a village setting because Africa, or Nigeria in this case, largely rural. So you have this girl. How do you bean germinate? I just took some. The grandfather in the village took them to the farm. They planted some maize, and he said, "Maize is germinating." What do you mean by germinate? So the scientist, who is clothed in a lab coat, I said, "Let me help you. The maize fruit you planted," and gave some explanation here. Oh, the little boy said, "This is amazing. Uncle Juma, how do you know all this? Is it because you're a scientist?" And all of that. So here they went to the stream, fetched some water, and on return, the parents asked them to observe several things before they come back home, and they did. And so they asked, let's say there was a question that was asked, and the lady scientist said, I will answer Juwon's questions while Okujuma will answer Ara's questions. And the question, let me see what I have. Yeah, so I think the question here is about sweating. Why do we sweat? And the lady scientist, explained how they sweat and asked, I hope you are satisfied with the answers. And yes, thank you, Auntie Yinka, although this is Grandma Yinka. You are such brilliant scientists. And the girl said, I enjoyed the answer. I never knew women can be scientists. When I grow up, I want to be great female scientist too. This has been translated. The second book is about scientific processes, observation, experimentation, and all that. What's our forecast? Our forecast is that if well implemented in the 55 African countries, by 2047, the agenda for Africa is 2063, the agenda we want. And the African heads of state and government are saying, oh, we need to have a large corpus of scientists, technologists, engineers, and all that to be able to get the aspirations achieved. 7 aspirations. So we're saying from 2047, if this is done, you're going to get the parents to improve their science literacy, be able to explain to the children the science concepts in what they observe, the questions that they ask on the playground, in the school, or the caregivers, in that case, and in the folklores. So the agenda 2063 will have a high chance of being attained. Now, let me play this guide from our consultant about what parents, should do. Oh yes, so the Tunicliff is giving us some very rich insight where you can't get anywhere on the matter of children learning science at home and the perspectives of mothers, especially, or parents, especially mothers. So over to you.
Right. The first point is I've watched children in Bangladesh, the Caribbean, Mauritius, and a few other countries playing, and children play. It doesn't matter what country they are or what language they speak. And of course, very young children aren't speaking a language, but they're still investigating and whatever object has caught their interest and they're playing with. But I've found in the work I've done, if you talk to the parents, but particularly the mothers, and explain that everything they're doing in the household, in the garden, in their land, is science in action, and it's engineering, and there's quite a lot of mathematics as well. So if you show them uncooked rice and cooked rice and ask them what's the difference, what have they done, and can they change the cooked rice back into uncooked rice, and they look at you as if you're an idiot. I've done it with women here, and you show them a piece of bread and a piece of toast, and they are amazed that you should be asking about toast, but then they realise that they can't change it back, but an ice cube they can melt and refreeze. I spent a session with mothers in Antigua in the Caribbean and explained to them about this and asked them how they wash clothes and what happens. You wouldn't believe the number of things they said they did, but eventually we got to the very basics, that you wet the clothes, you apply soap, you rub, then you rinse, and you wring out, and then what do you do? And they said you hang them out in the sun to dry. And of course that's evaporation. So if you can take these very simple everyday tasks, cooking, washing, preparing food, cooking the food by whatever method, tilling the land, growing your crops, they begin to understand that they are doing science in action, washing the children, dressing the children, choosing the clothes for the appropriate weather, things like that. And it takes it right away from what they've seen on the television, what they remember from school about formal science, but it takes it right to everyday science. And I think that is very important. I've done workshops here in England with parents, even parents who are scientists working in laboratories, and they never thought that this was all science. They all think science is in a lab. So do a lot of educators in primary schools in particular want a lab. You don't need that for doing everyday science.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. This is Theo, a Nigerian Canadian. 2 days ago, just as Sue told us, you don't have to be in a lab. This is in the kitchen of 3-year-old Theo. Let us see what...
Okay. 1, 2.
I'll do 3 hands.
Ooh,
Okay.
that's 10 drops.
That's
good.
Mix
Do
it
you want to
up.
mix it up?
Sure.
Okay, and then we need to put the soap.
Here?
How many drops is that, or do you measure it?
No, I want to do it.
Supposed to be 5 milliliters.
Okay.
Now I can stir it out and turn it. I'll turn it blue. And it's
Baking soda.
Mom, turn blue.
Yeah, get all that soap mixed in there.
So now what do you have in there? You have soap and coloring, right?
Yeah, because it's so mixed up to make blue.
Yeah.
Just make it so.
Okay, I'm gonna put this in.
Okay.
There's 1. We need
Mom,
3 of
you,
these.
you put this in after when I stir.
Okay, 2.
More. I want 5.
It says to do 3.
All right. What are the concluding messages? The first is that we need children's science to be given more visibility within the Commonwealth. Theo that I just showed is a Commonwealth man because it's Nigeria, it's Canada. And you can see that the mother, you see, so long as we're able to elevate the science literacy level of parents, chances are very high that they will, in turn, explain the concepts that the children will bring to them by way of observation, by way of experimentation, by way of their inquisitiveness. Explain that to them in some scientific language, and the children will be hooked to science. So we're thinking that CASTME, with support from the British Council and others, should begin a high regime of advocacy and awareness raising for STEAM for children. There's also a need to institute a Dennis Chisman Prize for exemplary projects on children's STEAM. And the third and the final one is for us to expand the model of the African Children's Science Project. We got some nice advice from when we presented this project about a month ago. I can see Professor Kitaba in the room. He also gave us advice that, okay, let's have documentation of the experiences, the videos. Let's have a database of all of this and share among other African countries and elsewhere in the world. So if this model can be expanded to other regions in the Commonwealth, we can collectively make children's science more visible. I'm coming back to Dennis now, and this is a tribute from Jan Chai, past president of ICASE.
Asian Symposium. Since then we work together.
Sorry about the low quality of the audio.
In Paris, doing the project 2000 plus, and at that time I became an Asian representative and worked closely with him. He devoted a lot. Many people call him the father of ICASE.
Yes, many people call him the father of ICASE. Yeah, so that's a brief tribute from Jan Chai, Yin Prayon, past president of ICASE. Let's look at the closing message from Dennis. Dennis, 14 years, 11 days ago, wrote this message to his friends. Dear friends and colleagues, you can read the others. I've highlighted a few that he's been diagnosed with oesophageal cancer. This is obviously not good news, but after 80 years of almost perfect health, no major illnesses, no replacement joints, no high blood pressure, still my own teeth and my hearing unimpaired. I guess I've been very lucky compared with many of my friends and colleagues. It goes on. The consultant suggests that surgery is a realistic option, even for someone of my age. So he had to undergo chemotherapy for 9 weeks, followed by a 6-week recovery period. And on he went. And he's saying, I'm always an optimist, so because perhaps Uncle Dennis and or Dennis Jimenez will bounce back in due course. Well, he passed on shortly after, and of course, passing on his good wishes to everyone, just Dennis. You know, he was a chemist. All chemists never die. They just fail to react. Dennis lives and is reacting in our hearts. May so keep resting in perfect peace. Thank you. You may just unmute yourself. Yes, Peter.
Hello. Thank you very much, Peter, for a fascinating lecture, and I certainly wish you well with progress with the projects you've been describing. I'm not really asking you a question. I'd just like to observe that in this Commonwealth Week, we should remember what a champion Dennis was of Commonwealth education.
Sure.
I first met him, I suppose, 30 years ago when I was Director of Education at the Commonwealth Secretariat. And in those days, of course, education in the Commonwealth was very strong, and CASTME itself had its secretariat based with us in the education program. Emmanuel Appiah from Ghana was the person secretary of CASTME for a long time, and I think we in the Commonwealth Secretariat at that time actually paid half his salary, and or maybe we paid his whole salary, but half his time was there to be CASTME secretary. At that time, I first met Dennis and also Colin Power, his great friend. Colin, of course, went on to be Deputy Director General for Education of UNESCO and was a close colleague of Dennis. Dennis himself was very active in trying to get the UK back into UNESCO. And in due course, at any rate, when we founded the Commonwealth Consortium for Education, which is the group of Commonwealth professional organisations in education, Colin Power became the first chair and still is, and Dennis for a long time was the associate chair of the consortium in London. He came to all the big Commonwealth education ministers' conferences. I mention this because this is Commonwealth Week, and it has just been announced today that the next meeting of Commonwealth education ministers is to be in Nairobi in only 6 weeks' time on April 27th and 28th. So as I see that many of you are from Africa, a good tribute to Dennis and his memory, who did so much for Commonwealth education, would be to get your governments, your ministers of education, who will perhaps be going to that conference or participated in virtually if they can't get to Nairobi, to try and put some steam back into education in the Commonwealth, both science education, but education cooperation more generally. Education is nowhere in the forefront of the agenda of the Commonwealth heads of government in Rwanda in this June. And if you go to the Commonwealth Secretariat website and look at its organogram, you cannot find education anywhere in the all the posts which are named there. It is hidden under social policy. So together, this is a plea really that we do try in this year to get education back more centrally on Commonwealth agendas. And Dennis would be strongly behind that. In my memories of Dennis, I really want to try and bring that about. Thank you for a wonderful lecture, Professor.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you for your service in ComSec, Commonwealth Secretariat, and all the names that you mentioned during the course of your intervention were my very good friends. I know you did mention Sam Badger. Sam Badger offered, who was there at some point, to Emmanuel Appiah, a great friend. They all organized the Project 2000 Plus event in Paris in 1991, and we were all there. You made very good point regarding our ministers of education. They having a Commonwealth Week, and education is low down the agenda. That's not good enough. I want to let you know, sir, that the Minister of Education of Nigeria, I will reach out to him over the course of the coming days. I'm in Abuja next week, and let him know that the matter of education would need to come up strong, and more importantly, the matter of STEAM. It must be full steam ahead. We must, push the STEAM agenda very, very, very high. I want to also ask CASTME, ably led by Sue Tunnicliffe. In one of the key messages that I brought out as conclusion to this lecture, I said, CASTME, you have a major role to play. Reach out to British Council, Secretariat, to raise awareness of the leadership of Africa, and let us be able to push the children's team subject matter up the priority list. Thank you once again, Peter. We deeply appreciate. We got a note from Bala about interdisciplinary aspect of our project. Yes, we are not. Unfortunately, we have not pushed the interdisciplinary aspect of our project much in terms of embedding the arts into science. But I assure you that in the coming weeks, we will recalibrate that and get that into it. We'll just be focusing on the science, technology, engineering, and maths component of it. Yes, floor is still open. We have 8 minutes. Well, I may be asking our leaders here, Jonathan. Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot, but Jonathan would like to. I'm not going to ask Keith if he's not willing to, because the last meeting I I had to ask him to intervene during the Q&A session. But if he wishes, Keith, I always love you to speak. Keith is one of is a science educator, science teacher educator that we in Africa, well, elsewhere in the world, we're very proud of. Your books, well referenced, well regarded in the preparation of science teachers all over the place. So if you want to take the floor, the advice that you gave to us the last time, we have factored it into our operation. But maybe you have a few other things to say. Keith, you have the floor.
Well, I think it's very kind of you. I mean, I don't know if I have anything very useful to say. I mean, I think the whole science versus STEM versus STEAM issue is interesting, and I don't think it's something that's been clearly conceptualized in how it relates to education at different levels, to informal versus formal education and so on. I think there's some work to be done there. The one thing that came to my mind that potentially might be useful, I don't know, is the something called the CREST Awards.
Yeah.
When you were talking about having a prize,
yes.
I wondered if maybe something like CREST, which is done by the British Science Association, or what for many years was known as the British Association for the Advancement of Science, where they have like bronze, silver and gold awards for science and technology projects. I don't know if that extends outside the UK. And if it doesn't, I don't know if there's potential for linking that further in the Commonwealth, if it's not already done in a similar way in other countries.
Thank you very much, Keith. It's a very good idea. And fortunately, the boss of CASTME is here, Sue Tunnicliffe, and she's listening. The CREST Award model, we like it. Gold, silver, bronze. And the Okebukola Science Foundation will be glad to support CASTME with some funds to make this to happen. Thank you. Let's see. Doris, we want to hear from you. And Jaya, we also want to hear from you from Mauritius.
Well, I am not sure whether everybody is really thinking of this educating the youngsters, not educating, I mean using the science with very young children and their mothers, as we are using here. We tried for a project and the evaluators did not approve it. So I am thinking that even people in universities are not really up to the standard. And Sue will know who I am talking about. You know, we had no support from these people. And I think raising awareness and educating everybody is the backbone of going forward with STEAM and using it with young children and you know, getting them into STEAM.
Absolutely.
That's hearing this lecture. I was thinking of how is it that only a few people are keen to do it, and then there are people in higher echelons that are not really supporting us.
Yes. Thank you, Doris. You answered the question. You know, I raised it as one of my key messages: awareness, awareness, awareness. And we carry that basket of awareness raising to CASTME. We'll join CASTME in the in promoting that awareness. Thank you, Jaya. I think that would be the last we can take before we yield to.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Jaya.
To attend this lecture. Thank you very much. It was very interesting. And at the Rajiv Gandhi Science Center, through a very informal or non-formal way, we have been doing our best to promote the early years science, catching them young, so that we have a good in the future, we'll have those budding scientists will be going for science subjects when they move higher up. So we've been working closely with the Early Childhood Care Authority, which is responsible for early years science about the age of 3 to 5.
Okay.
And then the children go to the primary school from the age of 5 onwards. And we have carried out quite a lot of activities at the Rajiv Gandhi Science Center. We have created a kiddies corner where the children can come and play and all that, try all their skills. And then also we've been training the practitioners, the tutors of early childhood care science, authority for science. So that was started since the year 2015, and because of the pandemic, we haven't been doing much for the early years lately. But Sue is aware. Sue has been to Mauritius several times, and she knows how there is a lot of activities which are being carried out to promote science and even empower the tutors, because many of them haven't had a science background. So they might be doing science without knowing it, and this has really raised an awareness in the early years about science.
Thank you very
education.
much, Jaya. That's all we can take for this lecture. Just a minute now. We have the closing remarks by the chair, after which we will adjourn. My pleasure to invite Sue to give closing remarks, and then we'll adjourn. Yeah, you need to unmute, yes?
Yes, I'm terribly sorry. Earlier on, my husband, as usual, forgot. I told him not to ring me. He's still stuck in London in the House of Lords. I came home specially for the lecture and so on. It's very difficult to know what to say, other than it would be wonderful, Peter, for CASTME and you to start a Dennis Chisman Award for this very special venture, because it would be very much from the people and it wouldn't be something from the UK or something like that. And one day I'll have a debate with you about STEAM, because I have this with students, and we have STREAM, where they put an R in for religion. You have STEM D, which is the disabled. You have STEM D for drama. There are so many variations. We've just decided we're staying with STEM, because if you watch these little children, they don't know about the barriers. They're just holistic, and they are so creative, and they're problem solving. They're designing, they're doing all these things at this very early age. So we're not entering into that debate. It gets very heated with students, I must say. So really, Peter, you've been absolutely wonderful. And you made me cry a bit. I'm remembering Dennis's message to us all. I mean, he was a great person. And I have to say, it was him who got me involved in all this years and years and years ago. And some of us decided when he did pass away that we were going to keep CASTME going. And I think those other two people are actually here tonight. So thank you so much for raising the awareness in the CASTME community and wider than that. And this lecture will be available as a recording,
Sure.
and we hope it will be very well listened to and thought about. And it's a really pioneering subject, and we really need to carry it forward and throughout the Commonwealth and the wider world. And it's vital that we have people like Jaya, Subrata, all your colleagues, my colleagues in Africa and from Australia and Canada. A lot of our CASTME meetings are actually hosted by a professor in Canada for us, that we develop together, not just one country's approach, because one size does not fit all. Everybody is individual, but there is a common theme.
Thank you.
So I just thank you very, very much. You must have done a lot of work, and really seeing Jack Holbrook's face and stuff, Jan Chai, it's been taking me down memory lane.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair, Dr. Sue Dale Tunnicliffe. We cannot adjourn this session without listening to boss from the British Council, Dr. Rita Odumosu. We have overshot our time by about 2 minutes, but I plead with the audience. Let's hear Dr. Rita Odumosu say a word, maybe 2 words in 30 seconds. Dr. Rita Odumosu, you have the floor, madam. Yeah, you may wish to unmute. Thank you, Dr. Rita Odumosu from the British Council. We thank you for the support that you are giving to CASTME and to education in the Commonwealth. British Council has been awesome, and we continue to count on you to keep prosecuting the agenda of children's science. Thank you one and all, and see you. Bye-bye.